Looks to come inside and fire one a goal and find the back of the net for Perth.
And the Azzurri have come back from 2 goals down to tie it up.
Cue the celebrations for the Azzurri.
Yeah, welcome. New episode of the Perth Soccer Club podcast. Great to have you with us. A little bit of a layoff after the podcast last week, but we're back. Big point for the Perth SC men on Saturday, backed up beautifully by another big win by the Perth SC women on the Sunday. Blaine Treadgold is my name, writing solo for this edition of the Perth SC podcast. Some big guests to come. Harley Orr will jump on board a little bit later on to chat about the big result on the weekend. We'll also look ahead to this weekend's big Friday night fixture that is happening against Olympic Kingsway. A stern test for the boys, no doubt. Looking forward to seeing how they embrace that one. Also, the legend himself, Graham Normanton. He's going to jump on. We'll delve back into the history books a little bit with Graham. But get this, 3 league titles, 2 cups, a top 4 cup, and 6 night series cups, according to my calculations. An outstanding contributor not only to the Perth Soccer Club, but also Western Australian football, was recognised by the WA Football Hall of Fame as well. So we're very much looking forward to that. First up, let's reflect on some of the weekend's results. Possibly the match of the season, for at least from a neutral's perspective. It felt like a massive point on Saturday in the scheme of things for the NPL men. Being 3-1 down at one stage, the boys dug in and showed plenty of grit to rescue that point. Goals to Sam Cook, David Ninkovic, Jamie McNellis and Big Frank at the back pulled it out late to salvage a point. So where does that leave us? Looking at the table, having a little bit of a snapshot of what the ladder looks like after 17 rounds. Perth currently sitting in 10th position. They are 2 points adrift of Balcatta, but 4 clear of Perth Glory in that relegation playoff spot and 7 clear of last placed Inglewood. So a fair bit of work still to be done by the boys, but full faith in them that they can get the job done and hopefully just pull in maybe a couple of other teams into that relegation battle, or survival battle, I should say, as well. It was a narrow 3-2 victory for the NPL women on Sunday, as we saw our Azzurri women go up against Fremantle. A little bit of a rivalry forming between these two sides, isn't there? Especially after previous weeks. Fremantle came ready to play, particularly after Perth's victory in the semi-final of the Cup in previous weeks as well. Sam Mathers continued her great run of form. She joined Daisy McAllister on the score sheet in addition to an own goal that saw our NPL women victorious. Following the match, I managed to catch up with Captain Baxter Thu and asked her thoughts about the win. Bax, a little bit nervy towards the end there?
Yeah, we put ourselves under pressure there. Probably not at our best today, but probably needed to problem solve things a bit quicker, just a bit more quality on the ball. But in saying that, sometimes that has been the way things have gone and we've given points up, and today we managed to do enough to get the point. So job done, and got to learn from it and move on. Fremantle probably had a bit of a point to prove considering the last couple of fixtures not coming out of the Cup and so forth. Yeah, for sure. I think they came out firing, and credit to them, they put us under pressure for sure. Their press was quite aggressive, but yeah, definitely a point to prove. Very proud of that Cup performance against them and the football we played, and yeah, fair to them, and they did come out and put us under, and we probably needed to problem solve a bit better, but yeah, like I said, still got the job done. And your thoughts on your own performances in recent weeks? I guess marshalling the back line? Yeah, look, I'm coming back from injury. I was out for quite a while. I think I'm still finding my feet a bit, if I'm honest. I probably wasn't happy with myself today at all. I was just saying to Brogues, I wasn't happy at all, but I think, to be fair, I've done all right coming back from injury, and in terms of leadership, I think I always like to chat and keep things positive and drive things from the back. So big couple of weeks coming up for us, so I think have to keep the girls on track. That was my next question. It sets up a huge top of the table clash next week against Red Star away. Yeah, it's funny how the draw happened. So big 3 weeks, so the next two are crucial. next week, Red Star. It's a big game at home. I think we're full of confidence though. Like, we did play really well against them last time and got the result, and I think we've improved from then. We've developed some good depth. I think things are starting to click as players have come in. Huge game next week. We'll just take it one by one, but I think we're going in with a lot of confidence.
Congratulations on the win.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, some interesting comments in there. Not too happy with their own game. So, look forward to seeing Baxter maybe firing up this week. Some big fixtures to come. We'll get to those a little bit later on in the podcast. Now, I thought we might just do something a little bit different. I am writing solo, so I thought we might just do something a little bit different as we look back on the weekend. So here is my David Letterman-esque of my top 5 picks of the week. Number 5. The Azzurri Talent Factory. Again on the weekend, we saw players step up into the first teams and do a job. We saw Luca Herninger on his debut a couple of weeks back. Also, shout-outs to Christian Belladonna, who's banking his case. And, of course, Jamie McNellis, who's come in this year, and he's been absolutely outstanding, of course, getting on the score sheet numerous times throughout the season. But, the future does look very, very bright. Number 4. The grit. It could have been quite easy for our NPL men's team just to drop their heads midway through that second half when the chips are down and thought that maybe the result had slipped away on Saturday. But the boys dug in and scraped what could turn out to be a very, very big point in the scheme of the season. So a big congratulations for that effort and that attitude, especially going in late when the chips were down. Number 3. The ability to be flexible by our NPL men's team. Last couple of weeks, it seems like there's been a little bit of a willingness to be flexible, maybe a little bit more creative and adapt to some different moments in the game. And we saw a different style against Balcatta in previous weeks. I thought we saw a little bit of that against Armidale, but certainly that ability to adapt to different times of the game and different styles and different opposition, I guess, in different moments of the game has certainly been playing out over the last couple of weeks, and I think it's been refreshing to be able to see that as well. Number 2, our NPLW contributors. The girls are absolutely lighting up at the moment, but the impressive part for me is the amount of contributors all over the park. If someone has an off game, there's always someone there who steps up, from Baxter Thu and Kim McCartney at the back to McAllister and McKenna in the middle, and of course Ella Lincoln and Sam Mathers in that final third. You could throw Ruby Marshall in there, who just gets the job done no matter where she plays. And, of course, Lily Bailey at the back. And there's far too many players to mention everyone. But I guess that ability for that next soldier to step up when maybe someone isn't having the best game or injury hits or whatever that looks like. So I think that's been absolutely outstanding across the NPL women's program. Number 1, earlier this week we saw news regarding a WA government grant for $300,000 for each club in the NPLW competition. This is for the upgrade of facilities across the NPLWA, and a reported 10,000 new female players across WA have been reported to signing up. So these grants will go a long way to ensuring that we continue to find adequate and safe areas for our girls to play football, but also provide access for future generations to see our current NPLW stars as the role models that they are as well. So I think that's absolutely outstanding, and it's great to see. So that's my 5 top picks of the week. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We've got plenty of great guests to come. Not too far away from having a chat with Harley Orr. We'll do that a little bit later on, but we'll take a quick break. And on the other side of this, the man, the myth, the legend, Graham Normanton, he's going to join us next. Welcome back to the Perth Soccer Club podcast. Great to have you with us. A man who needs no introduction to this club around these parts. It's a real pleasure to be joined by Graham Normanton, member of the Football Hall of Fame, recognised by the Football Hall of Fame, coach of Perth SC from 2000 to 2010, player, man about town. Normo, g'day.
I don't know about man about town, but by the way, it was 99 to 2000.
99, okay. I'll have to do my... I'll sack my research there, there, Graham.
May the 7th, 99.
There you go. I want to read this out to you. 3 league titles, 2 cups, two top 4 cups, 6 night series cups, according to my calculations for the Azzurri. How does that sit with you these days?
I don't know whether you're right or wrong, to be honest with you. All I know is there was 24 trophies in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But, I'm not one that counts the trophies. People think that, that I coach to win trophies. Well, obviously you coach to win trophies. You coach to win games of football. You coach players to be better players. And so, but I'm not one to count how many premierships were in there. To be honest with you, it's quite confusing what was a premiership. Whether it was winning the top 5, whether it was winning the league, whether it was, so nobody really knew whether we'd won it or we hadn't. So, nobody really knew what the premiership was back in some seasons, because the football West changed their minds that many times, and sometimes they change their mind during the season. So you never really knew whether you were winning the premiership or winning the league or what you were doing. So, but apart from that, I never really counted the trophies. What I gauged any success that I had in the game was out of players and players' enjoyment of the game, and allowing them to enjoy the football and creating an environment for them to enjoy the football, and to enjoying the football sometimes meant winning games and winning leagues. So, and I take great pride in the fact that I think wherever I go, I try to enhance the enjoyment of the game.
I want to go a little bit down memory lane, and I want to get to this point about how you came, a boy from the northeast of England, to coach an Italian club on the other side of the world. You're born in Hartlepool, of course. Late 60s and 70s, of course. What was that like growing up over there?
Well, look, as a kid, football was everything in England. It was, you just dreamt of being a top footballer. And you played football every minute of your spare time. You were out, as you know, in the UK and in Europe in general, it's light. It's in summer till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I was out kicking a ball as a 6 or 7 year old until 10 o'clock. Mum used to come and drag me home to go to bed. So football was a way of life, and still is a way of life in the UK, to be honest. But so you dreamt of all of that. And then, of course, you get into the game of football and you get into the professional ranks, and it's not what you dreamt it would be. People think that, the glorious life of a footballer is actually that, but it's not. And it may be if you were at the top echelon of football. But when you're in the low levels of football, or the lower levels and the top level, it's a grind. And in England, there's a blue-eyed boy syndrome goes on a lot as well. If you're well liked, you'll go places, and if you, doesn't matter how good you are, some players get there because they're well liked by the staff. They smile at the right time and say the right things and tell the right jokes and all of that, and so they get on. And so I lost a little bit of passion for being a footballer, and then the opportunity in 1982 came up to come to Australia. And it was only by chance, really, because I was playing against a guy that I used to be a teammate of at Middlesbrough called Peter Creamer. And Peter Creamer came over here to play for Gosnells back in about 81, I think it was. And I hadn't seen him obviously since he left Middlesbrough, and I met him at a football ground. Middlesbrough were playing a friendly against Whitby Town, who were an amateur club over there. And I didn't know he was even at Whitby until I ran on the pitch, and there he was. So we had a beer after the game, and I was telling him I was a bit disillusioned with the game in the UK, and well, not so much you're just disillusioned with the game. You don't say in the UK, but you're just disillusioned with the way the game was going. And he said, "Oh, do you fancy going playing in Australia?" And I was like, "Never even thought about it." And he said, I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Oh, I've just been to Perth." Well, I'm going to be really honest with you. I didn't know where Perth was. So we had a discussion about it, and he said, "Oh, you should come to my place for dinner one night and I'll show you some photographs." So I went home, mentioned it to the wife, and and this will be funny to a lot of youngsters listening, we had to get the encyclopedia out to find out where Perth was. So I got the book out and got the map out, and where the hell's Perth? Never even heard of it. The only Perth I knew was in Scotland. So we got back home, got the encyclopedia out and looked at the map and thought, geez, Australia, never even thought about this. So anyway, we cut a long story short, we went off to dinner and had dinner with him and his wife, and showed me some photographs, and he said, "I'll put you in touch with the club." And so the story started. So the whole saga started of coming to Perth. So the first club to be in touch was Spearwood Dalmatinak. And they had their quota of visa players.
Sure.
So they were waiting for one of them, which I think was Matty Pearson at the time, trying to get his residency. Once he'd got his residency, then they could sign me. Well, it got delayed and delayed and delayed. And so at the end of the day, the coach, who was John Davies at the time, said to me, would you go to another club? I said, well, as long as it's a decent club, I don't want to go to a whole heap of crap. He said, I'll put you in touch with another club. The very next day, the phone rings. And in those days, just the phone in the house, no mobiles, nothing. Pick the phone up. This Scottish accent bloke on the other end of it, ringing me from Perth in Australia, Gordon Ferguson. So I had a good chat with Gordon, and he wanted me to come over, and he wanted me CV, if you like. I said, well, yeah, I can send you that if you so. Anyway, we sent him a CV, and then it started in earnest. Then it was about trying to get here and all of that. So that's how it all started. And the club, thought when I came here that I was this, 35 goal a year striker. The truth is that I was playing as a striker, and scoring plenty of goals, but I was actually brought up as a midfield defender. Yeah. So, when I came and they found out that I actually wasn't a striker, there was so much disappointment around. So we thought you were going to be this goal scorer. What's happened? I said, well, nothing's happened. I didn't tell you I was a goal scorer. I don't know who told you that. So somebody had told them that I was coming and I was going to be this saviour of the club. So, they'd been undefeated in 81, I think. And I think then Azzurri had got rid of all of those players. And then in 82, they'd struggled and they were taking on this youth policy.
Sure.
Sounds like this year, doesn't it? So they were struggling a bit, and they had all these young lads of Italian backgrounds, Lawrence Biagioni, Joe Rossi, Bruno Tatasciore, Adrian Vacca, Steve Carulli, Glenn Godici, all of these lads who were all youngsters at the time playing in the first team and struggling. So I turned up and wondered what the hell was going on, because the standard wasn't what I was used to. And so I took my place in the team, and, we did okay that year, but the following year was a bit of a struggle, and we had coaches like Gordon Ferguson had the job when I got here. He resigned or got sacked, not sure which. And then a guy called Ivan Pickle took the job. And Ivan was, in those days he was Yugoslavian, so I don't know what part of Yugoslavia that would have been, so I couldn't tell you whether he's Croatian or Serbian or whatever. But anyway, he took the job, and he lasted about 7 or 8 weeks, and he resigned. And we weren't travelling too well, so I think then Peter Georgie took the job. And I remember the first team talk Peter took, and he said, right, boys, right from the first bounce. And I went, bounce? What the hell is a bounce? I didn't even know what Aussie rules football was.
Sure.
So when he said first bounce, I was like, holy shit, what's he talking about? And Peter, to his credit, was a great guy, and I love him to bits. And he was a great guy, but obviously very inexperienced in the coaching ranks. He just took the job because nobody else was there at the time, and they got 2 coaches had gone, and so the story started, and then that was when the season started. I remember the first game. I arrived on the Friday, played football on the Saturday for the reserves out here at Doreen Gardens, and it was 37 degrees when we kicked off. So when we kicked off, I was like, what the hell have I come to? It was like, and we kicked off. I went over the sideline. Gordon Ferguson was on the bench, and I ran across after about 15 minutes to get a drink. And I said, chuck me a drink. He said, get back on the pitch, get used to it. So he wouldn't give me a drink of water after 15 minutes, and my tongue felt like it was twice the size of my mouth.
Yep.
And so at half time, instead of listening to the coach, who was Tommy Sinclair, I was in the shower, stood under the cold shower with all my kit on, thinking, how the hell do you play in this? I couldn't believe it. Because the highest temperatures we ever got in the UK was about 20, 21, 22 degrees. So we went out in the second half. We won that game 9-1, and against Florida it was. And the first team went out and won 4-1, I think, that day. So that was when the whole thing started. it was a challenge, shall we say, to start off your first game in 37 degrees.
You mentioned prior to that you were at Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Take us through how that kind of came about, because then I understand you got to play for your hometown club at Hartlepool.
That's correct. Yeah, I was well in the UK. They have scouts.
Sure.
So every club has scouts, and they go around all the junior games and watch all the games, and they have their tentacles reach far and wide, and they're off into bloody all over the world now. So these scouts, and then if they see players who they think are pretty good, they'll say, look, we'd like you to come down to the club and rah. So, and then you go through a trial process, and so long story short, Middlesbrough signed me as a young apprentice at the time, and Jackie Charlton was the manager, and Harold Shepperton, who was the assistant manager to England, was the assistant manager to Jackie Charlton at Middlesbrough. So, and they always had a good reputation for junior system, and, bringing juniors through. So I signed for them, and it was a great time. I mean, I had teammates like Craig Johnston, who ended up, we called him Roo.
Of course.
He was at my wedding, and David Hodgson, Billy Askew, all these guys who made names for themselves in the English game. You probably wouldn't know David Hodgson or Billy, but you'd certainly know Craig Johnston.
Yep.
So these lads were all part of the crew, and we had a great time and loved playing for Middlesbrough. And Jackie Charlton was revered in the English game, and so he should be. He was a great manager, and if he taught me one thing, it was he was a straight shooter, told it as it was, had no favourites, and basically, you either performed or you got dropped. And the insight into his managership was brilliant, because as an apprentice, you had to be at the first team games to do all the chores, basically. You're not there to do anything else. But to do all the chores, then you get an insight into the manager and how he talks to his players and how he sets up for game day and all of that. And it was a massive insight to how professional he was and how good he was and how he, what demands he made on his players. And I'm talking about players like Graham Souness, David Mills, Jimmy Platt in goal, Willie Madron, Stuart Bum, all these blokes who were revered in the English game as top footballers. I mean, even Graham Souness has still got a massive name in the game now. And I always remember one game at half time when Graham Souness came off at Ayson Park, and he was not having a very good day, shall we say, and Jackie Charlton was making demands of him, and there was a bit of a heated exchange went on. Next thing, Souness is in the shower. Jackie Charlton just told him to get in the shower. Yeah, that's your attitude. You're not playing for me. Off he went into the shower. And he was, the biggest player in Middlesbrough. And it taught me a lesson. Nobody's bigger than the team. And it's true. Nobody is bigger than the team. You have good players and you have not so good players, but you can't do without each other.
Sure.
And so he taught me a lot in that regard and how he treated. And he always had time for us. And one guy I forgot to mention was Terry Cooper. Terry Cooper was the England left back at the time, and he's one of the game's gentlemen. What an absolute pleasure it was to spend 2 years with him. And he used to come out on an afternoon, because the first time we finished training at 12 o'clock and go home. But as apprentices, we were out training, and he'd come out with us, and he'd spend time with us, showing us how to do all the skills of the game and all sorts of things. He was brilliant. And he was 32, 33, 34 at the time, and he was just brilliant to be around. What an example to kids he was. He was just such a great pro, and he just wanted to give you his time. He was just brilliant, So from there, at the end of your apprenticeship, you either get signed as a pro or you don't. I didn't, So I got moved on, and it's a big kick in the guts to you, because your dreams of being a professional footballer are sort of almost dead and buried. And then Hartlepool showed an interest, so I signed for my hometown. Not exactly what I wanted to do, because Hartlepool are a deadbeat club and always have been. They have no ambition to be anything else but, really. And I don't mean to be derogatory to Hartlepool per se, but they've never really had any ambition to be anything other than 4th division, and even now they're at 5th level of English football. So they haven't got any better, really. And I'd love them to do well. So I went and signed for them and spent a couple of years there, but that's when I fell out of love with the game.
Sure.
You know, the manager didn't treat us very well, and you know, he'd go drinking with his mates, with some of the players, and all those players played. No matter how well they played, they got a game. And you know, if you didn't go playing snooker with him on a Thursday afternoon, you generally never got a game. So at the end of the day, I was just, you know, I don't want to be part of this. So that's what happened.
When you got out here, you linked up with a name that many would know in Kenny Lowe. You guys knew each other from back home?
Kenny's 2 years younger than me, and he was coming up through the ranks behind me.
Sure.
And when I signed for Hartlepool, I was only 18. And Kenny was 16. So Kenny was playing in what was called the intermediates, which is the junior team, which here would be the under 18s.
Sure.
And so I was still young enough to play in the under 18s. So they played on a Saturday, the reserves played in midweek. So if you didn't get a game on Saturday in the first team, you were then eligible to play in the intermediate team, which I did. So I put my hand up and said, I'll play. I want to play football, you know. So Kenny and I then became teammates in the under 18s for a few games. I didn't play a lot. Kenny played the whole season, but I only played 2 or 3 games in that team, just to basically if they were short or, you know, because I was part of the pro setup.
Yeah.
All these kids were just part-timers. So Kenny came through there. So we've known each other for, Kenny would have been 16, so I was 18. So what's that, 48 years?
Yep.
So, you know, we've been together, I've known each other for 48 years. Yeah, Kenny was a lock of blonde, curly hair in those days. He's got none of it left like me now. So, but yeah, he was touted to be an up-and-coming player. He was a quality footballer, Kenny, and he could play. There was no two ways about it, and he went on to make a career of it in the UK.
Well, you followed each other even further than that, because I think you both played at Spearwood Dalmatinac. And then
No, I didn't play there.
Did you not?
No, Kenny did.
Kenny did.
Yeah, played against him.
Yep.
That was in, I'm going to say about 85. I'm going to say 84, 85, something like that. Kenny went to Spearwood Dalmatinac and played for them and played against him. And I think he only played one season, then went back and then came back again. So I'm not sure what year that was, but played against him again. And then he went back again. And then he started his coaching and managerial career in the UK.
What did you first make of the football when you came out here? Obviously, it was very, very different to what you knew.
A lot slower and a lot less physical.
Sure.
Than the UK game. The UK game at 4th division level was cut and thrust, full-on physical contest. Not much pretty football being played. So I found it, without being derogatory to anybody, I found it easy. I found it easy to play in.
Yeah.
Being brought up in what I was brought up in and coming here, you know, I found the Australian kids very soft and very easy to play against. But we did come up against some UK visa players who were good players and had played at good levels over there. So I found the quality of the league was good. I felt that the quality of the league was quite good. I don't think it would have got to 4th division level in the UK, but it was good. It was a good game to play. There was more football being played here than in the 4th division in terms of possession-based football.
Yeah.
In the 4th division, it was more belt it and get after it, and the conditions lent itself for that as well. So I found that playing football, which is what I wanted to do. As a player, I was a possession-based player, and I always wanted to play that. But in the UK game, we never played that. And just as a little story, I remember playing for Hartlepool at Victoria Ground, and I was playing right back at the time. We had a corner against us, and I was on the far post. Corner was on our left-hand side. Goalkeeper Martin Burley came out, caught the ball, and I took off down the right-hand side. Martin threw the ball in front of me, and I was belting down over the halfway line with the ball. Nobody ahead of me. None of my teammates ahead of me. So I checked out, came back, passed the ball inside to the midfielder, and he tried to pass it out to the left-hand side to a bloke called Derek Hampton, who run like the wind. Anyway, Derek lost it. They won the ball, went down the other end and scored. This was just before half-time, so we 1-0 down. We went in at half-time, and the manager ripped shreds off me. And I said, "You're blaming me for the goal." He said, "You should have put it in the box." I said, "Put it in the box? There was nobody in the box to put it in." He said, "Yeah, but if you'd put it in the box, we wouldn't have conceded a goal." I said, "But there was nobody in the box." He said, just put it in the box and nobody in the box. That's their problem, not yours. I said, you blaming me for the goal? So anyway, we had a big Barney.
Yeah.
I got subbed. And I thought, if that's the English game, the game's finished, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, well, that's not how to play football.
Yeah.
You don't just kick the ball to their goalkeeper and think that's okay. So at a very young age, I had a very clear vision of how I wanted to play the game of football. And it wasn't played like that in England. So when I came here, it was quite a pleasant surprise to play on good quality pitches, in good conditions mostly.
Yep.
I couldn't believe how good the pitches are here. You know, I mean, we never played on that. That thing out there is like Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
You know, it was unbelievable. I was like, oh my God, it's like a carpet. So when I got in, I was pleasantly surprised in the football that we could play. And I was pleasantly surprised and loved playing here. And I loved the game. I fell back in love with the game.
Did you always want to be a coach? It sounds like you had ideas on how you wanted to. You just said there by the style that you wanted to play. Was that something that you wanted to kind of bring into your coaching?
Well, I'll give you a little story about what made me decide I wanted to be a coach. I was a pro at Hartlepool at 18.
Yeah.
I got married at 19. I was living on what's called the Headland in Hartlepool, which is over near the right on the coast. And they had a youth club out there. And I used to do some of my own training on what was called the town moor, which is just basically a long piece of grass. And I used to do my own training. And the guy who ran the youth club, which was it was next door to the town moor, he'd seen me training. And he said to me, oh, you play for Pools, don't you? I said, yeah, I play for Pools. He said, oh, would you come down and do some coaching for me at the youth club? I said, yeah, I might do. Anyway, I do my own training 2 or 3 times a week in the afternoon or in the evening. And all the kids got wind that there was a Hartlepool player training on the town moor. Well, next I was like the Pied Piper. I had all these kids running with me along the moor. I had no ball. I was just running, just doing fitness. So anyway, I took a liking to it. I said, okay, I'll come down and do a session. So I went off and did a session, and we're just doing some skill-based stuff. And this little kid, the team ranged in age from 11 to 16. So there was this little kid called Luke who was, knee-high to a grasshopper. Yeah. And he had the old National Health glasses on, which is the round glasses with the big hooks on them so they don't come off, right? Yeah. So I'm doing some heading practices. And I said, he come to me, I'm serving him the ball, and I said, look, you still get your glasses on. You want to leave your glasses on? Yeah. He goes, yeah, I'll leave them on. Okay. So I threw him the ball, and the ball smashed him square in the face. And his glasses sort of got twisted, and he just adjusted them, put them right, and went off to because I had stations where you do different, but he didn't go to another station. He came back to me. So he came back to me, and I said, Luke, are you going to take them glasses off? No. So he kept the glass on, bang, poof, smashed him in the face. His enthusiasm was infectious. It was like great, Anyway, at the end of the session, he did this about half a dozen times, and I was like, come on, Luke, and I pat him on the back. He'd go on, well, Luke, come on, he was just a little fella, and his enthusiasm was brilliant. At the end of the session, he'd come up and hugged the shit out of me. Yeah. And so anyway, when I came back to the next session, the doors burst open, Luke comes flying in, jumps into my arms, gives me the biggest hug you've ever seen, and he just jumps off, where's the ball? And I thought, shit, if I can have that effect on a little lad's life over a game of football, how good is that? Yeah. How good is that you can actually make something positive out of a kid, just a football with a kid in his life. So anyway, I didn't coach him on a Sunday, so I went down to watch them play one day. And Luke was substitute. Always was, because he's the littlest, he's the worst player. So I said to the coach, come on, Alan, put him on the pitch, give him a go, come on, So Alan's gone, he's useless. I said, just put him on, mate, come on. Anyway, he put him on. And my God, mate, it just made me heart miss a beat. Yeah. He ran like hell, and he got it. I'm going, go on, Luke, get in, go on, son, And he got into tackles with blokes twice his size, and he just got in there with his glasses on, and he was brilliant. And I thought, you know what? That is something that makes you want to coach. If you can have an effect on a young lad's life like that, and you can enhance his enjoyment of a game of football that is for everybody, not just for the people who can afford it, then you go, you know what, coaching is worth doing. So yeah, I probably did have ambitions without actually knowing it. I probably did, yeah.
What do you make of football currently, but in specifically WA football and the way it's tracking?
I'm going to sound negative, but I don't want to be. I don't want to be negative, but I think the standard has gone backwards.
All right.
And I'm not looking at this through rose-coloured glasses. I've been involved in this game since I've been here.
Yep.
You know, I've given 41 years of my life to football in WA, and I've coached at all levels. I haven't just coached at senior level. I've coached kids as young as 5. I've coached adults as old as 70. I've coached, as you see, I've coached Perth. I've coached Kingsway. I've coached Bayswater. You know, but done all these teams. Coached Croatia, you know, I've coached all these levels. I've coached a state women's team, I've coached the state boys teams, and I see the standard, you know, is gone backwards at the top level. And I think it's gone backwards at the top level because I think we've neglected the top level of football here. We've put a lot into junior football, and all our resources seem to be going into football. And at this club, I was at a function here talking about. There was people up on the stage talking there at a dinner last season, and talking about, you know, that we want money for the kids. Well, no, we've got the cart before the horse, because what happens? The kids may be good players, and they get to 16 and 17 year old, they've got nowhere to go. That is quality. So none of them want to be part of the WA League because it is not classed as a very good league. And it is not a very good league. I've watched it this year. It is not a very good league in terms of quality. So it's disappointing to see that it's gone to that level, but it's something that has happened by design, I think, by FFA and Football West, in terms of they've taken out all the visa players. You know, a lot of visa players now. When I came here, and people will say, "Oh, it's because you're a visa player." No, it's not. We've got some shining examples in the world of what happens to a league if you bring the best players to it. And the biggest example is the English Premier League. They've brought the best players in the world to that league. That league has just jumped in level 50% in the last 10, 12, 15 years. The English players who are playing in that league have jumped in level 50%. You look where the English national team is in terms of world standards now. They're about 4th or 5th in the world. When that Premier League was at its lowest ebb 15, 20 years ago, they were about 25th. So what happens, and people will shoot me down for this, but I don't care. What happens with players, they'll play to a level where they get comfortable. It's not about coaching. It's about who you play with and against, and yes, the coaching enhances that. But if you only have to get to a certain level to be a top player, you'll only ever get to that level. So if mediocre is the level we've got here, the good players will only go to mediocre. They don't go above that because they don't have to, because they're in comfort zone, right? So our kids don't have to be extended to get to NPL level. So to me, we've destroyed the standard by stopping bringing good players here. And people say, oh, they're going to take the place of kids. No, what the kids need to understand is they need to get to a level to get in that team. And players make themselves better players. Coaches don't. Coaches enhance them as players. But players need to be dedicated to their craft to become a good player. So they need to have a ball at their feet. I told you about me as a kid. I was out kicking a ball every day of the week. And even now I can strike a ball and hit a target from 30, 40 metres away 9 times out of 10. So, and I'm bloody 65 coming up. So, and I can hardly walk, never mind run. So, you know, the kids need to be dedicated to their craft to get to a level where they can break into that team. Now, if that team is only a mediocre team, they'll get into it by being mediocre. That isn't where we want our kids. We want our kids to be top-level footballers. And if you want to be in that team, you've got to become a top-level footballer. But we've brought the standard down by stop bringing good players here. And we're going to suffer in A-League level this year because of the money that's been drained out of the game. It's been taken out of the game. A-League is going to suffer in standards. And people are going, oh, I'll give all the young kids a chance. Well, no, it won't. It actually won't give them, it'll give them a chance to play A-League football, but it doesn't make the A-League a better league.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we've got to understand here, that we've got to make our league, and there's no reason why we can't make our league a better league. You can have 4 visa players in each team and still have 12 or 14 or 16 or 18 places in that squad for kids in this country, in this state. That's plenty. And in fact, it's too many. So, I think we've gone down the wrong track. I think we've gone down the wrong track in the way we develop kids. I think we've got to see, everybody thinks that you should play a group of kids together, like Glory Youth. Play them together in an adult league. Well, as we're finding out with Glory Youth, how many times have they finished in the top half of the NPL? Once?
Yeah.
Once in how many years? So, so if you look at it, a team of kids against a team of adults will always lose games of football. I'm not saying the kids are not good, but how you develop kids and put them together, if they're getting battered every week, like the Glory Youth are this year, how are they learning anything? People say, oh yeah, they'll learn. No, they won't. They won't learn, because how you learn is playing with and against better players, not just against them. So our kids are playing against better players, our top kids, but their game's not getting enhanced by playing with some good, experienced players.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you a little story to sort of enhance that, if you like. I broke my leg in 1992. I was out the game for 2 years. John Ward, who was the director of coaching at the time, was taking what was called the NTC, or the ITC, I think it was called then, Intensive Training Centre team. They were playing on a Wednesday night against all the reserve teams in the top league. Now, they were all 16 and younger. Goes back to what I was saying. They hadn't won a game, right? John rang me up. He said, where you at with your injury? I said, well, I'm on the way back, actually. This was 2 years after it happened. I said, I'd like to play again. By this time, I was nearly 35. And I said, I'd like to play. He said, well, how about you come and play with the kids at the ITC and help them on the pitch? And I said, oh, I'd love to do that, John. That'd be great. So anyway, funnily enough, my first game was here on a Wednesday night. And of course, the reserves here were top of the league. These kids I was playing with hadn't won a game, hadn't even got a point. Yeah. And I was playing with people like Chris Coyne, who was playing in that team, and Mike Lightnovsky and all of these players who were playing in that. And then we played here at Doreen Gardens. And I got on the pitch and started marshalling the troops, if you like, guiding them through, get here, do this, pass it here, and talking to them, enhancing their game. Anyway, I remember we were defending, and this lad had a shot, and I'd gone back on the goal line, and the ball ballooned up in the air. And instead of just booting it, I controlled it on the line. And as the striker came towards me, I was fainted like I was going to boot it. He turned his back on me, and I dragged it to one side and went past him. So I started running out the penalty area with the ball, and I could hear all the parents in the stand going, oh, all cheering like this. They'd probably never seen anything like that. That one moment, all those kids just seemed to go like that. Yeah. And it just lifted those kids to a level that they probably never played at. And I'm not taking the credit for this. John takes the credit for it, John Ward. Yeah. John Ward was lambasted in our game sometimes, and yet he had some great ideas. Anyway, we drew one each. The night ended, we drew one each, and you'd think the kids had won the World Cup. Yeah. And once again, my presence on the pitch enhanced their enjoyment of the game of football. And I hope that game would give them some hope to become a better footballer. So I played the rest of the season, which was only about 5 or 6 games at the time. And we won a couple and lost a couple and all of that. But it was a joy to be able to be on the pitch with them, to help them play the game better, to help them understand the game better, and to help them go through and understand how to become a better player.
Absolutely. Normo, I'm sure we could go on for another hour, but we won't. We'll let you get off, and really appreciate you.
I've only got to go training. I'm still coaching, brother.
There you go. I really appreciate you giving us plenty of time on the podcast, mate. Wishing you well.
Sorry I talk too much.
Not a worry at all. Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy.
Welcome back to the Perth SC Podcast. Big thank you to Graham Normanton. Some fantastic stories in there. Great to see Normo still, doing his thing around WA football. Let's get to the here and now. Let's have a bit of a chat about what's happening with the NPL men's team currently. I've been chasing him for a couple of weeks and he's been busy with work or he's been suspended. He's had red cards, but hopefully back on the park this week. We've got a crunch game against Olympic Kingsway. Harley Orr's with us. G'day, mate.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, no worries at all, mate. How's the week been?
Yeah, pretty good. We got Kenny back at training, which has been good. We had a pretty fun week, to be fair, last week without him. Hopefully he doesn't hear that. But it's had a good first training session on Tuesday in the cold as usual. Yep. But this week's looking good. Hopefully a good couple more sessions before Friday night.
Just get you nice and close up to that microphone, mate. A couple of positive results, it must be said. We'll go back and have a bit of a look. Balcatta, big 5-0 win in crunch conditions, mate. You unfortunately missed out on that one due to a suspension, but how did you see it? Yeah,
it was really good. I think I said to the boys before the game, I think one of those games was kind of, was kind of approaching us, say like a 5 or 6-0 game. Yep. There's been a lot of games where we've had a fair few chances but just haven't been able to take them. So to come through with a result 5-0 and especially not conceding any goals was a real boost for us boys last week. And it was much needed against, I guess, someone who's not only a rival due to the history of the two clubs, but similar areas on the table as well. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the last few games have been against a few teams in and around us on the ladder, so it's been really important to try start to beat the teams that are only either 1 or 2 points above us to obviously get us out of the relegation zone, which hasn't really been a spot that the club's been in for a long time. So at the moment, every single game's such an important game for us.
It was an interesting one on the weekend, Armidale. It didn't all go Perth's way, but geez, you must be proud of the boys in the way that they fought back and really kind of got stuck in.
Oh, definitely. I think coming into the change rooms at halftime, obviously 3-1 down, wasn't really how we thought it was going to be, considering we went 1-0 up in the first, I think it was a minute and a half.
Yep.
Yeah, which sometimes is not the greatest thing to score so early because you're obviously not expecting it. But, full credit to the boys. Could have easily just rolled over at halftime and thought this is going to be a bit too hard. But I think we came out in the second half and we definitely deserved to definitely get a point, but I think we deserve to probably get the 3 points at the end of the day. We had a few chances towards the end, which would have been good if we could get the win, but we'll definitely take the point.
It feels, at least in my opinion, that was a real crucial point to get just as far as the season goes, because it does make another game adding up for your rivals around you as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also since Glory obviously lost as well, it definitely extended that little gap, but not really the points. I think just the fight to come back from 3-1 down at this point of the season to show that we can obviously come back in tough situations. Because I think there's obviously been a few games where we've lost by a few goals and it hasn't really looked great on us. But to see that last weekend towards the end of the season is a real positive for us.
And there must be a fair bit of hunger in yourself missing out the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, massively. Everyone kind of knows I get a fair bit suspended for the last few years, but not really. Yeah, the one against Floreat, it's obviously hard to see on the camera, but I definitely didn't actually touch him, so it was it wasn't the greatest red card in my opinion, but these things happen. So definitely itching to get back out there, especially playing against Kingsway, which I've got a few mates in their team, so would love to be on the park playing against them. But the way the boys are going and the last two results, and it's don't really need to be changing the team just because obviously the captain and that. I think that's a real good thing about Kenny and the way he coaches. If the boys are doing well, then there's no real need to change the team, I feel. Especially if after the 5-0 game, if you got brought out of the team just because the captain wants to come back in, then I think that's not really fair. So all props to the boys, and if I come on, I come on. If I don't, then hopefully we can get the result without me.
A lot of talk about this new style under Kenny. Myself and Stroudy have gone backwards and forth a few times, but it feels like over the last couple of weeks there's maybe been a little bit of flexibility in that style, if you like. It hasn't been so rigid.
Yeah, for sure. I think at the start, the first few games, I think it might have been Kingsway or Armidale. We obviously, it was play out the back as much as we could, and we were trying to do that every single time. And then there were a few instances where it did get a bit touch and go, and we kept obviously trying to do that, and it wasn't really working. We were conceding goals. So now I think we've got the flexibility. You know, if things aren't really working out, then we do have that option to go long, or so for instance, Joey is a goalkeeper. Instead of playing out to our centre backs, we can just go long from a goal kick and use our pace up top. So it just obviously teams can't figure out what we're going to do, because I think a lot of teams started to see, well, all we're doing is playing out. So they'd do a high press or something like that, and we would get a little bit under pressure and didn't really know what to do. But now Kenny's obviously given us a few more options, which helps us out at the back, especially when we're under the pump a little bit.
Well, I guess it's a little bit kind of time and place, isn't it? Because that first goal against Balcatta was just straight direct over the top to Gordy, and Gordy's straight on the end of that.
Yeah, which obviously we've got the players at the top of the park like David, like Gordon, and Macca as well, who's coming to the side. They've got that really good pace. So especially on smaller pitches, if things aren't working, then we do have that option to just go over the top, and hopefully they can take the chances.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be really pleasing as a guy who's been around the club for a while and starting to get a little bit older that you are seeing these young blokes come through.
Yeah.
McNellis, Belladonnas, Rossies and these kind of guys.
Yeah, no, it is really good. It started to definitely happen before I left to go to Melbourne. For instance, like Christian Sandich, I used to go watch him on the weekends when he was playing in the under-18s and Resies when we were in the first team. And then obviously when he came into the first team, it was really good to see a young player like him. And obviously he ended up going over to Melbourne and Sydney as well. So, yeah, no, it is really good, especially like I used to come down and watch the first team with my old man and was obviously always hoping to play with them one day. And, yes, just be seeing young Macca, he's really started to take on like his role as a starting player, starting to score a few goals. So, yeah, it's really good.
You mentioned your time in Melbourne. How did you find it all, mate? And how did you find the step maybe up to a much more competitive kind of league over there in Victoria?
I think everyone kind of knows and expects that Melbourne's probably the highest NPL that you can probably go to out of the States. Yeah. And yeah, it kind of all started when we went over in 2016 as with Perth, playing in the competition where you verse all the teams that win the league.
Yeah, the NPL Championship.
I think it is, yeah. So we drew Heidelberg and had to fly over there and verse them. And obviously, we ended up beating them. And then we ended up going over to Sydney the week after and playing against Wollongong.
Yep.
We ended up losing against them. But, yeah, it was a really good experience. Didn't really work out as I expected at the start. I went over to Oakley and then, did a full pre-season with Oakley and then kind of realised that I wasn't going to be playing as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
So then I got the opportunity to go over to Dandenong Thunder where Francis Swiley, our old Perth goalkeeper, he was there as well. He helped me get over there and then, had a really good couple seasons with them. But the competition and just the fanfare as well over there is a whole nother level. It was really, really good.
You mentioned Francis, a former captain. We spoke to Jordan DeLeo, and I think that's almost the succession of the captaincy that you spoke about there. I mean, you played with some wonderful players, especially in those early years.
Yeah, especially going being at Perth with Francis was really, really good. He was actually a goalkeeper for Aquinas, one of the PSA schools that we play against when I was at Trinity. So I first kind of ran into him on the pitch there, and then obviously being our goalkeeper at Perth and him as my captain, he was an unbelievable leader and obviously an unbelievable goalkeeper as well. And then it was even better being able to play with him over in Melbourne. And he was actually the captain for the first few games, and I was there as well, only after a short period of time. So, it's been really good.
No, good stuff, mate. We look ahead to, I guess, this weekend, Olympic Kingsway. You did mention you got a couple of mates over there, but, I mean, they're flying at the moment and it's going to be all hands on deck. Yeah,
definitely. They're, without a doubt, the best team in the competition at the moment. Can't really remember the last time they actually lost a game, to be honest. They've got some unbelievable firepower, obviously. Joe Knowles, Aaron Williams, Mitchell Oxborough, the list really continues. But if you look back at the games that we've actually played against them, obviously the scores don't really, I feel, reflect the way the game should have gone, especially the the first game when we lost, I think it was 5-0. I think in the first half we had something like 70 or 80% possession. Couldn't score a goal. Then we've unluckily scored an own goal, but then obviously the wheels fell off after that. And then, the cup game as well, probably went 1-1, then copped a second goal pretty quickly after equalising. But I think we've been, you could say, maybe the better team in a couple of the games. So, I think we'll do a good job against them on our pitch here at home, definitely.
And I guess just other things that are happening around the club, we've got to mention the girls because they're absolutely blitzing it at the moment.
Yeah.
And I mentioned just when I did my intro a little bit earlier on, big one this week, they take on Perth Red Star, just 2 points between them and could decide the title.
Yeah, it's massive. No, it's been really good since I've been back because obviously before I went to Melbourne, the girls wasn't really, I don't think there was really much emphasis on it, I feel. But
Sure.
Definitely now that I've been back, there's obviously a real good emphasis on it. And obviously Federico, he's I think the assistant coach.
Yep.
So he's doing a real good job with them. But no, I think they're in the cup final as well.
Into the cup final, against
so
Red Star. So there's a bit of a rivalry kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
simmering.
And obviously they beat Red Star last time at their ground, so I'm sure they'll be out for revenge. But it'll be an unreal game, to be fair.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. 18s and 20s also in action across the weekend. Mate, thanks for giving us a few minutes. Certainly appreciate it.
No stress at all.
Fourth and final part of the Perth SC Podcast. Great to have Harley Orr joined us before the break. A big thank you to Graham Normanton as well. Great to have a chat with those two gentlemen a little bit earlier on in this edition. Let's look ahead to the weekend. It is a huge one. Friday night as the Perth Azzurri men's team, they will host Olympic Kingsway. That is happening Friday night, 7 p.m. It is a huge fixture. And we're very much looking forward to getting behind the boys. Azzurri Army, make sure you don your scarf. You get down to Dorrien Gardens, a 7 p.m. kickoff this coming Friday night. Very much looking forward to that. Also, on the Sunday, I don't know if it gets much bigger than this, but it is 1v2 in the NPL women's competition. Our Azzurri girls, they'll head up north to the campus. They'll take on Perth Red Star. This could decide the title for season 2024. So a massive fixture. We need everyone up there. We need everyone getting behind the girls this coming weekend. It could be absolutely massive in the scheme of things, and we're very much looking forward to seeing how it all plays out for the rest of the NPLW season. A few other things going on. Don't forget our Back to the 80s quiz night happening on the 2nd of August. If you want more details on that, check out the social media or check in with the wonderful staff and volunteers here at Perth Azzurri Soccer Club. And also, don't forget to grab this as a podcast each and every week. You can grab it through Spotify, through Apple. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's also available through YouTube now. So, no real excuses to not keep up with everything that's happening at the Perth Soccer Club. Big good luck to all of our teams this weekend. And come on, the Azzurri.